Hey everybody, JuicyTaz201 here, bringing you another video. Today we are in my city, but we are talking about a very important issue, which is skyscrapers and pretty much what I do and what my whole channel is about. So, today we're talking about the 5 big mistakes builders make while building skyscrapers in Minecraft and any other console Minecraft. And they are pretty much all similar. They're all the same problem. And what I've been seeing throughout the years, because I have my series, the world tours, and it's pretty much like a city tours. But I do other stuff too. But I've seen so many buildings and things that could be improved, and I'll show examples along the way of what could be changed to make cities look so much better than they are. People think too geometric, and they don't think about other kind of shapes they could do and designs. And we're going to go through the 5 top big mistakes. But these are just a few of the worlds that I've been in, and I've, just seen so much and how people build, what they build. So that's why I'm making this video. And I know a lot of people have difficulties, designing things and just the material usage and how they should place certain things. I'll be covering that in my future series. But today we are just talking about skyscrapers and the 5 biggest mistakes. So here we go. And coming in at number 5 for today is skyscraper height. I've been to so many great cities where the skyscrapers and the buildings in general were great, but there was no center or point of the city that I felt like was the center. And, in my city, it's pretty obvious that my World Trade Center, well, the One World Trade Center is the main building. But the world is just so big, and there's so many skyscrapers, but you always know, like, where the middle is, where the main center area is, and it is, as I said, my World Trade Center. But I've been to so many worlds where the main building was the same height as the one next to them. And I know what it is. It's like a lot of famous buildings out there people want to recreate. But a lot of those famous buildings out there that are like the Empire State Building, World Trade Center, the Twin Towers, the Sears Tower, all those, they're around the same height. And when you build those in your city, it makes them all the same. There's no one that just sticks out more than the others. And the One World Trade Center just sticks out in my city. And it's 256 blocks because of the needle, but I try to keep every building around 200 blocks and lower, and the antenna can go higher than 200 blocks, but the rule of my city, which it pretty much always stands true, is never make a building that's as tall as a Freedom Tower or taller, and it is impossible to make one really taller, but you can go a block taller, but, I did it on another building that I started building, but I got rid of. But, because the World Trade Center is just my middle point, and without this being the tallest, it just ruins the city, I feel, the vibes and everything of it. But if you look around, every building is surrounded around that one, and it's just the tallest. And I do recommend, though, in your cities, don't make any building that's, just the same height. Don't make 5 buildings that are the same height. And it's just for every city, too, in real life. They're all, the same size, but you have that one tower that is the marking of the city. That is the main middle. And so what I go for is the triangle effect. It's where, as I said, the one is part in the middle is the climax. It's the middle, and it's the highest point, and it should be viewed like that from more than one side. So the other side is just like that. It's like you gotta envision like a red triangle, and it's like a pyramid, and they're all stacked by height. Now the ones over here, they're about 210 blocks around there, and but they're not taller because the needle on the World Trade Center is taller than them. But they do appear taller. But the red triangle goes for both sides, and it is an estimate. But you gotta have pretty much, I think of it as the buildings worshipping that. That's how I always think about that. Coming in at number 4 is windows. I've seen so many buildings with windows that just do not make sense, and I'm here to clear this up. Now right here is kind of an example, depending on the building. This is made for, this is meant for this building, this style window. But a lot of people make the window continuously go down the building. Like in the Art Deco buildings, they don't make a stopping point for the floors. And the best way to hide the floors, like the wood and the ceiling, is by putting a, part, like a dividing in between each window. And you can change the way it looks. Like it could be 2 different color blocks or whatever kind of block you want. But over here too, all my buildings have a divider in between the windows. And they don't just continuously go down to the ground. That is one of the biggest mistakes that kind of take away the wow factor of a lot of buildings. Now, ice buildings are exempt from this because, it is just the one material, and it's really meant just to see in the interior and get a lot of light from in the interior. But you're mainly looking from the exterior. It's hard, interior, exterior. But the ice buildings are exempt from this. But the framing when you're doing an ice building is very important. And you don't want to have like, a place where there should be a support beam, but there's nothing there, because then it's just not, realistic. And number 1 will bring everything together with what I mean. So number 3 today is the materials. Materials is like one of the biggest thing. All these are very important, but materials is probably one of the biggest. You don't want to have the same color building right next to each other. You don't want to have 2 quartz ones next to each other. You don't want to have too many ice ones in the same area if you use ice or sandstone. You want to really mix it up, and it's important to use ice, brick, quartz. And this one right here is like really good example of material. This is the one of the real actually, yeah, it's a real one in New York City. It's one of the recent ones I wanted to say. In my city I think I built it almost a year ago now. Time flies. But, yeah, this is like a great example of using different materials. I don't use the same material for everything. Like the railings, they're quartz pillars, and right here, that little design right there, I don't know why I put that, but I did it for detail. That was the reason. Up here is the mushroom block, I think it's called, or something like that. But the materials are different, they change, and a lot of the mistakes that I see in people's buildings is they are the same color for everything. It's the same material, and I think it makes the city bland and kind of boring. So if you can have like 3 different kind of materials on the outside, maybe at least 2, then you're all good. But also the indentation of the windows and the materials in general for the exterior. Now, if you're able to get away with doing like 2 different colors, like a quartz and a sandstone, or like a dark brown clay and a sandstone color, that's great. That's what they use for like a lot of the older buildings in New York City. But the designs here are what make up the main, pleasing feature of the whole entire buildings in my city. They're not just like boring blocks. And right down here is a really good example. This is supposed to be an older building in the material. You have so much. You have brick, quartz, you have the green up there, you have stone, and a lot of the older buildings, as I said, do have different material usage in real life and in my city. And that's just the back of it. Now, I would go to every building for material, but I have so many buildings I wouldn't be able to do that. I have about 18 or 19 skyscrapers today that I just counted. And this is the front area we go into. And just the materials on this alone, I really wanted to change it up. And you see the orange in there, and a lot of the material usage is on the inside too. When I don't just mean the exterior, I mean the interior. And in here, it's just like all these different materials. You have white, you have this cool background, backsplash, which is like the gray wood. I think it's Arcadia wood with the gray cement, or one of the gray blocks. But I change it up, and I don't just do the same boring color every time, because I want dimension. I want people to, just say wow. And people really did like that building when I first made it. And the interior in here. Everybody does lobbies in their skyscrapers, I think. If you don't do the interior, at least do the lobbies. I do recommend always doing the lobbies. Even if it's not that great of a design, get some inspiration on the internet. My number 1 source of inspiration is the internet. I don't go off the design, but I do get inspired by everything I see. And I really get inspired from New York City, and if you can't get to New York City or another city, to go online and look at pictures. There's just so many great buildings in that city. Coming in at number 2 is size and proportionality. Now this goes along with height, but this means also the size, the width, and the height of the buildings. And as I said for height, it just really ruins a city when a building is like too big and it's just too tall. And I guess a real life example of a building that's too skinny and too tall would be 432 Park Avenue in New York City. It just ruins the vibes of New York City, and it really is a building that is kind of boring. And something else that's taller could go better there. But the Empire State Building, I believe, should be left alone and should be the only, tall building there in that part of the city. Same for the area in Lower Manhattan, World Trade Center area. But yeah, what I see in a lot of Minecraft cities is a building that's like 50 blocks by 50 blocks, or like 50 by 60, and it goes up like, 50 blocks. It's pretty much like a square. And it kind of makes the building and the city look like a geometric, city. And, geometrics and everything play a big part in city building, but not every building has to be a block and a square. I feel like people just build big things sometimes just to take up room and just to say, like, yeah, I built this. And some beginners do that because they're not really sure about how to build. And that's why this channel is great for people who are learning, especially if you need inspiration of other Minecraft cities. This is the best place to come because I do mainly Minecraft stuff and the city stuff. And the biggest mistake, though, as I see it all the time, is proportionality and sizing. And I just think the height is the main one of that, and of everything I've seen. Now I need a drum roll for the number 1 out of all the 5 building, skyscraper, whatever mistakes. And here we go.
Drum roll, please. Drum roll.
Today, what takes the cake for number 1 is design. You don't have much of a skyscraper without a design, and, a square and a rectangle right up to the sky is not hard to do, and unless it's done, elegantly and the materials are, on point and everything. But I had to say, if you don't have a design, then you really have a bland city. Kind of looks like North Korea in a way. Not to be disrespectful to North Korea, but the buildings there are kind of all the same. They're boring, but and it's just it's not, there's not much going on. And right here, this is a good building to have. But I see so many buildings that are just like that. Every building is just like that. And you really want to have some dimension. Now, if you really want to have some really cool looking buildings, I would go back to the Art Deco, and I think it's Art Nuevo. I can't say it right ever. But the older buildings always have a much more slender and graceful design. And the modern ones are more of like a retro, as you can see, the Freedom Tower and all these different shapes. But the Art Deco is, stacked look, and it goes up gracefully, and it's geometric a lot of times, but it, just like this to the Rockefeller Center, it goes up nicely. But yeah, design, if you are building a city, and I assume mostly all of you guys are, I do recommend going online, searching Art Deco up, urban Art Deco, and modern. Now, my city is a little bit of both. I try to mix everything together. I'm going to be doing more Art Deco. I'm in a Art Deco fix now, and all the old style stuff, and that's what I'm doing right now. But the design is so important. Like this building right here is a real building that I went off of. Some of my buildings are my own design, some of them are real buildings. But like this one over here, one of my favorite buildings in my city, I call it the Renaissance Building. It's actually in New York City. This is I think it's 30 Park Place. And all the cutouts and the bump out right there, the bump out porches, are what make that building so beautiful. If you just made like a sandstone square up to the sky, it would not be the same as what I have here. And I love how all the buildings are their own, and they all need to look different from each other. And that's what you want to go for when you're building a city. You want your buildings to look different, unless you're going for the same thing, the same feel. But I'm thinking in the city, there's all these different kind of architects out there, and I want to make my buildings look like they are all done by somebody else, and not just me. Because I am doing all my buildings. I have my friends sometimes help me with the flooring and lighting and stuff, but not most of the time. Most of the time I'm doing it all by myself. That's why it's taken me over 6 years so far. Today it's May. It's someday in May, but in 2018. Well, it's May 5th, but if you're watching this, it could be much later than that. But yeah, design is so important. And I hope this video helped everybody who's building a city and skyscrapers. If you have any questions, please ask them below, or even help each other out with any questions you guys might have. I hope to see you guys in the next video. It's been JuicyTaz201. Have a great day. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and check out my Twitter and my club page on Xbox. See you guys. Have a good one.